Didn't we just do this already?
It's officially Apple event season because just after the March event, we already have our next Apple event, which is going to be Apple's Worldwide Developer Conference, or WWDC, and it's gonna take place on Monday, June 6th, with the usual keynote being at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And it's an all-online event again, just like the last 2 years, so let's talk about it.
Well, like every year, WWDC will be the event where we get to see all the new versions of all the operating systems that Apple has. So we will get to see our first glimpses at iOS 16, iPadOS 16, tvOS 16, macOS 13, and of course, watchOS 9. Now, unlike hardware rumors, I feel like Apple has a pretty tight lid on software rumors this year, and there haven't been too many reports on what to expect really out of any of these new software updates. However, I think one big assumption for this year is that Apple will be introducing some changes into iOS 16 centered around their widgets feature. That will make these widgets more interactive rather than just big square blobs that display information. So for example, with the current music widget, you can quickly launch a song, but say with iOS 16 with widgets with more interactivity, maybe you could have full media controls ready on those bigger versions of the widget. There's also some strong rumors this year saying that iOS 16 will not be supported on phones older than the iPhone 6s or the iPhone 6s, so it would require a iPhone 7 or newer to run. Perhaps one of the biggest software rumors we have this year might be a reworked version of multitasking for iPadOS, with some rumors saying that Apple is thinking about adding windowed support for apps when your iPad is attached to the Magic Keyboard. In fact, Apple already kind of has a template for how this windowed version of an app would kind of work, because if you've ever used Apple's Quick Notes feature, this gives you a floating window that you can use to quickly take notes with on your Apple Pencil. And I kind of feel like that would work for a floating window design with a couple little tweaks. There's also some rumors that we could see even more Pro features make their way onto the iPad Pro, and this could come in the form of Pro apps like a version of Final Cut Pro or Logic Pro, although to be fair, there haven't been really any concrete rumors on this recently. However, there is a chance that if Apple decides to implement these Pro apps, they may be exclusive to iPads running on M1 chips because of the memory requirements it would take to run these applications, and I guess maybe because it would also just be easier to port these apps already over to M1 iPads, considering they already run on M1 Macs. Like, it doesn't sound like it would take that much work. I'm not a software engineer, I don't know, but it sounds like it would be easier just to take the existing software and bring it to the same chip on these iPads. macOS is perhaps my favorite operating system from Apple, and last year they really blew my mind with the new Universal Control feature, which allows you to use your keyboard and your mouse from your Mac or your iPad and use it to control any other Mac. And also use features like drag and drop between all of those devices and then control the iPad. It's really cool. Universal Control finally just came out with the recent macOS release, but it's technically still in beta, so who knows if it will actually get a full release within Monterey, or maybe that will be reserved for the next version of macOS, but even in beta, it is working very well. However, for this year, I'm not sure what to expect. macOS is obviously so mature at this point, as are most of Apple's operating systems, so it's kind of a little hard to think what they can add feature-wise. Although I'm sure they'll think of some new features. I mean, that's why they're paid the big bucks, and I'm not. But for me, I kind of really hope that Apple focuses on just tightening up macOS. I've had memory leaks in macOS Monterey, and I've seen other people complain about issues that they didn't run into on macOS Big Sur. So for this year, if they don't add any new features and just focus on bug fixes or perfecting existing features, I would be 100% on board with that. Make it like that Snow Leopard release. Okay, that brings us to watchOS 9, and again, not too much information on this one. I feel like the last few watchOS updates haven't added too much functionality, but my hope for watchOS 9 is Apple working on a software version of the Apple Watch that can be more independent from the iPhone. In fact, what I want to see most out of watchOS 9 and the Apple Watch Series 8 is Apple to make their first Apple Watch that doesn't need an iPhone to function. I feel like the iPod and the iPhone both had this period where they kind of needed to be connected to a Mac or a PC in order to function properly, and eventually they became sophisticated enough with their software and their capabilities where they did not need to be synced up to a computer in order to function. I really hope the same thing happens for the Apple Watch, and you can just buy an Apple Watch, use it with or without an iPhone, and that doesn't mean you have to pair it with an Android phone to work. I just think, at this point, now that the Series 7 has its own cellular modem and the processing power required to run it, and a keyboard, there's no reason why this Apple Watch shouldn't be able to work as its own independent device. And if they do that, I really think sales for this would just absolutely skyrocket, because I do believe the Apple Watch is the best smartwatch in the entire market. All right, finally, tvOS, everyone's favorite operating system. Yeah, I don't know. You do you, tvOS. Just keep running Netflix and Apple TV and Hulu. I don't watch Hulu. HBO Max I do watch, though. Well, I'm an HBO Max kind of guy. They got some good stuff on there. Sopranos, check it out. All right, now here's the big question. When can we actually see these operating systems, and when can we use them? Well, actually, you'll probably be able to use them the day that they are announced, because Apple tends to drop the betas for these devices right after the event if you're on Apple's developer beta program. If you're not, there will probably be a public beta following within the next month, so I would probably think towards the end of July. Okay, well, we talked about software, but what about hardware? Is there any chance we will see hardware at Apple's WWDC event? Well, hardware at WWDC has always been a mixed bag, with some years Apple showing us some pretty high-end Pro computers, and other years with them just focusing completely on software updates. Well, for this year, I think there is a good chance we can see some sort of Mac hardware at this event. My guess is that Apple will show off the new Mac Pro at this event. The Mac Pro is technically the last Mac Apple has to bring over to Apple Silicon to completely complete the transition away from Intel, and if they're going to originally complete their 2-year time frame that they set for themselves, they are going to have to announce this Mac Pro this year, and what better time to show off the new Mac Pro than at WWDC, where you have the attention of a large segment of the Pro audience and all of the developers on your platform that either work on these Pro apps or could be interested in a full-size Mac desktop tower. And actually, the rumors for this Mac Pro have become very interesting after Apple has released the Mac Studio, because before we thought Apple wouldn't be making an expandable desktop anymore and that they would just put all of these powerful components into a very small box. But now that the Mac Studio exists and fulfills that role, it seems like Apple is still into the idea of making a Mac that you can open up and expand for yourself. How this will work with Apple Silicon architecture will be interesting. Maybe you can add your own RAM and storage. Like, that's still on the table, which is kind of crazy with the Apple Silicon architecture at this point. And perhaps maybe Apple will even still allow you full access to PCIe slots so you can hook up powerful dedicated graphics cards. I really don't know, but based on the Mac Studio, I just feel like how they announced that, I feel like they're leaving the door open to release a bigger desktop tower that can still be expandable in some way. And before the Mac Studio, I just wasn't thinking that. So I'm really interested to see how this thing actually looks. So I think we'll get the Mac Pro announced at WWDC, and then I don't expect it to actually ship anytime around this June timeframe. I would honestly expect this to probably come in at the end of the year, like we saw with the iMac Pro and like we saw with the 2019 Intel Mac Pro. I think we'll probably see this Mac Pro ship in November or December. So we'll see an announcement, we'll get excited for it, but we won't be able to actually see any tests or results until the end of the year. All right, but that's pretty much everything we can expect at Apple's WWDC 2022 event. And let me know in the comments below, what are you looking forward to? What are you most excited for? And what do you think Apple will actually announce at this event? Like, do you actually think that we will see some hardware at this event? And do you think it will be more than the Mac Pro? As always, if you like this video, make sure you give me a like. If you want to see more from the channel, make sure you're subscribed. And as always, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Take care, everyone.